Hello and welcome to the GRADD Dialogue. My guest today is a good friend and a great leader for the Daviess County, Judge Executive Al Mattingly. Judge has been on the show several times, and today we're going to discuss some of the initiatives that he's so proud of, and we are so proud of. That is, I think Daviess County is unique in that sense as well. But I was going to give you an intro about Judge, but gosh, everybody in Daviess County knows Judge Al Mattingly. He's been a judge. Since 2000, well, 2007, actually, you were on.
I actually been a judge
commission.
3 years,
right.
7 days, and about 6 hours.
So that was in January of 2011.
Yes.
Okay. Just welcome on the dialogue, and let's kind of talk about that. You announced that in 2012 about the BOLD program, the Bring On Leadership, Learning and Development program for the Daviess County, young generation and citizens and everything else. And I know we talked about that. You want some fundraising and also trying to really give the opportunity that some of the younger folks, or the students may not have that, And so, tell us about that, where you are, and then kind of revisit, see what's going on in the future.
Well, thank you, Jiten, for having me here this afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to talk about something that's pretty near and dear to my heart, which is education, because as a gentleman that's out in the audience and I were talking today, education is one of the ways that you add value to labor.
Right.
When I was growing up, I watched my grandmother and grandfather earn a living by the sweat of their brow. And we all can do that. None of us are too good to do that, but certainly you can add value to that labor with a good education. And I think that the BOLD scholarship will allow people to do that. In 2012, I announced the formation of a BOLD scholarship. And it really is not unique. It's unique in this county, this community, but other communities have programs where they accumulate money in a foundation, and they use that money to give scholarships to people. And there are all sorts of criteria that the scholarships are based on. We initially, because of a small amount of money that we had, we narrowed the focus and said that this scholarship was going to go to Daviess County residents. It was going to go to those who sort of non-traditional students. It wasn't going to go to those first-year students. What we were looking to do is to entice those people who had tried to continue their education, further their education, but for whatever reason, they had to quit to earn money to support their family, they got married, for whatever reason, they had to quit before they graduated. So anyone who is within 12 hours of completing an associate degree, a baccalaureate degree, a trade certificate, or any other certificates from one of 4 local accredited colleges, that would be Owensboro Community and Technical College, Brescia College, Wesleyan College, and Western Kentucky University Owensboro campus, that we would, if they applied and were accepted, that we would grant up to $1,000 to help them complete those 12 hours so they could get that certificate. In working with the 4 local accredited colleges, those colleges agreed to match the $1,000 scholarship that we would be awarding. Right. If you take $2,000 for tuition, and that's just about enough to cover the cost of the 12 credit hours that they would need. But we also said that we realize that some students might have the money for the tuition, but they don't have the money for books. We also realize that parents with families, they may have the money for books and the tuition, but they don't have the money for daycare. So this money, this scholarship can be used in various ways to facilitate and make it easier for them to complete their education.
Judge, what do you you mentioned about there are 4 colleges or universities here, and they have, I'm sure they have their own scholarship programs and grants and everything else. And there are other public nonprofit groups that help out too. Why do you think the Daviess County Fiscal Court or the local government needs to jump in, to
Well, one of the things, let me be very clear with this. While this was an initiative of Daviess County Fiscal Court, it's not so much a government initiative.
I see.
we're using the bully pulpit of Daviess County Fiscal Court to stand up and say it's extremely important that we do this. If you recall, I said that there will be no government money. There will be no public tax dollars that go into this. This is going to be totally funded by local contributions. One of the reasons that we also started pushing this is that, as you know, Daviess County was the first county in the Commonwealth to be declared work-ready or given work-ready status. Well, by being declared a work-ready county or community, we committed to certain things, and one of those things that we committed to was to raise the educational attainment level in this community. And one of the ways that we can do that, and we felt one of the quickest ways, and Helen Mountjoy serves on my community. You know Helen, who's been in education forever and ever. She's wonderful. She was the Secretary of Education for the state of Kentucky. One of the ways that we can do this is to go out and find those people who did not complete their education for whatever reason. Now, there are scholarships, there are government funds available to first-time students. Kids getting right out of high school, there are hundreds of opportunities to be awarded a scholarship. There are lots of Pell Grants and all the other grants that are available, but typically that money gets used up. And once it's used up, there is no money left to complete their education. And many, many times you have people who go through life wishing that they had had the opportunity to get that last 6 hours or that last 12 hours and get their baccalaureate.
And I think I would imagine that, you know, one of the side benefits that this initiative has been, you know, given out in the community is that it kind of shows that the leadership, you know, cares about the education for the people who may not be able to, whatever reason, may want to finish that. You know, so
well,
that kind of itself probably creates more.
One of the things I would tell you is the past fiscal court, Judge Reed Hare. You know, education meant a lot to Judge Hare. Because of him in the past fiscal court, we now have Western Kentucky University Owensboro campus, a building out there that's financed and funded by Daviess County Fiscal Court. As I said, I think it's an opportunity for leadership to stand up and say, folks, look, this is what we think is important in our community. And again, as I said, education is something that it doesn't guarantee you a job, but it certainly helps smooth the way in attaining a job and a good paying. And you know, I have a degree in biology. I got called home to take over the family plumbing, heating, cooling business, and somebody said, man, isn't that a shame you wasted your education? And I said, I didn't waste my education. My education was not given to me to assure me a job. My education taught me how to think. My education taught me how to reason. My education gave me the ability to make good choices for myself as opposed to listening to the latest TV program or radio program or reading a newspaper and having somebody else make those choices for me.
And I think Daviess County, you know, right at the present time anyway, you know, has proven that, because I think we experience one of the lowest unemployment in the state. You know, I think
if not the lowest, it is one of the lowest. It's pretty cool what we have done locally, and you know, one of the things that Daviess County and the city of Owensboro always has had a reputation is that if we can't get help to do it, we're just going to do it ourselves. And that's what we've done. Now, the State of the County address, I believe, will be the 4th of February. I'm out of town the week before. I'll be flying back, and hopefully I will be pulling into the parking lot of the new convention center about 15 minutes before it's time to give that state of address.
So you won't be at the GRADD banquet
I will not. Thank God that this trip is going to take me away and I won't have to sit through one of those GRADD banquets. But in that State of the County address, we will announce the names of the first 2 recipients of a BOLD scholarship, and hope to have them there. And one of them, I believe, will continue their education, complete their education at Owensboro Community Technical College, and one of them will complete their education at Western Kentucky University Owensboro campus. So it will be very thrilling to see the results, the fruit of our labor. We were just awarded, the Bold Scholarship was just awarded a $50,000 grant from the Public Life Foundation about 4 weeks ago, with an additional $50,000 next year if we can match it. So folks, each and every one of you out there in TV land, be prepared, because I'm going to be hammering on your doors asking that you be generous and that you be bold and help these people along, because Jiten, I really believe in my life, and I know in your life, you've had people help you.
Absolutely.
And I believe that it's my responsibility, and I believe it's each and every one of our responsibilities to reach out and give people a hand up.
Yeah. And let's not forget that I think any contributions that anybody listening to the show would like to make, or even a corporation, this is a tax deductible contribution.
It is. There are, as a matter of fact, we will start doing formal fundraising this coming in the next 6 months.
Right.
You know, it's just such a wonderful opportunity for people to show that they care. And in several talks, I've just said that this scholarship helps restore the faith of people who are down on their luck in their community. It helps boost their hope for a better life. And it really shows the love that this community has for each and every resident, regardless of their station in life. And I can tell you, I'd be remiss if I didn't remind people, next year during the United Way campaign, there is a checkoff, a way for you to contribute to Bold Scholarship through the United Way. So I look for that, folks.
Excellent, excellent. Now that kind of brings me to the point. The last one is that what is your mission? What is your goal? You know, I mean, do you expect to have in the next 4 or 5 years, you know, $500,000 or $1 million put together, so that the scholarship goes on, beyond, your.
I would hope to be able to have $1 million in the bank within the next 5 years, and we, there have been some trying economic times, but with the initial $50,000, we have had private donations in excess of $11,000 already that's gone in. We have another $50,000 with a matching grant, which would be $150,000. And if you take $150,000 total, and you can get a roughly 5% return on that, that's about $7,500, $8,000 in scholarships. So we could, this year, $2,000 scholarships matched by the colleges. Next year it could be $8,000 scholarships matched by the colleges. The following year, for every $100,000 we raise, it's 5 additional people that we will help complete their education. By doing that as well, we just make this community a better place for people to invest their money from outside the community, for people to open plants and factories, and it should boost our economic development.
You talk about investing in this, and so let's make it kind of clear for the audience. If they would like to make a contributions, would they send the money to the fiscal court?
No.
Who is handling the funds?
They certainly could call, and I can get them in touch with the Green River Foundation. Dan Griffith is, and the Green River Foundation is handling all the money they're doing in investments. Daviess County Fiscal Court, other than using that bully pulpit, is taking a hands-off. The 2 students that were awarded the scholarships, we did not know them. We didn't choose them. The Green River Foundation did all that work, and we want to stay arm's length away from that, so that nobody says, hey, there's somebody, he knew somebody who knew somebody who knew the judge. No, we absolutely do not want to be there, but certainly they can call me at Daviess County Fiscal Court. They could call Dan Griffith, the Green River Foundation, Helen Mountjoy. We have a board of 5 or 6 people, and a really great Bob Glenn, Commissioner Bob Glenn from the city of Owensboro, serves on that board and teaches at Owensboro Community College. We have 3 young people. It's not just old people like me, it's 3 young people who serve on that board. Each and every one of us have contributed to that foundation, to the scholarship, and each and every one of us have a commitment to make Owensboro and Daviess County a better place for those who follow us.
That's a great note to close this interview, and I want to thank you for talking about the Bold. I think it's a great initiative. I want to wish you best of luck. And people watching this show, please think about making some contributions, which is going to be utilized towards helping the young folks in our communities to finish college and get some help from the universities as well. Hello and welcome to the GRADD Dialogue. In the last, I guess, 10, 20 years or so when I've been doing this show, I've had a lot of elected officials, politicians, governor, legislators, judges and mayors and whatnot, but never had a humorist to be on the show. So I'm kind of nervous to see how this is going to go. Plus we only have 13 minutes, so it's going to be tough to do that. But let me do that. Let me introduce my guest today. He's Mr. Bob Park. He's a native of Ohio County, having started a 42-year career in education at the Fordsville High School. During the years, he was a teacher, coach, guidance counselor, and also attended his time as the dean of the students at the Henderson Community College. This is where he resides in Henderson. He has made over 600 speeches since 1991, and mostly as an after-dinner speaker. He's a bluegrass musician, has presented a weekly program at the WSON, which is a radio station in Henderson, and for the last 12 years, and has written 5 plays, 3 of which have been performed at the Henderson Arts Center, and the 4th one is scheduled for the April of this fiscal year, 2014. And his newest venture is the author of a book called Tall Tales, in parentheses, and a few white lies from the front porch. In fact, has already made a lot of impression at the GRADD Board of Directors meeting today. So, Bob, welcome on the GRADD Dialogue.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
It seems like it has been 20-some years ago that or even longer than that you spoke at the GRADD Board and Staff Retreat a couple of times, and
That's
also
true.
being at the GRADD Board. We were talking about how should we start January 2014 as a GRADD Board meetings, with everything else going on about the Washington Challenge and Frankfurt Challenge and weather and everything else, and then all of a sudden it clicked to us that your granddaughter, Sarah Duncan, said, by the way, my grandfather can come down and speak. It's bingo, yes.
She didn't know we had a long history, did she?
No, she didn't.
She didn't know that. I probably maybe knew her before. Knew you before she was even a person.
You're right.
Very well
Exactly.
right. So it's strange how things kind of what goes around
so
comes
let's
around.
just talk about how did you start your journey in our speeches and playwriting and all those things?
Well, I have always enjoyed good stories, and I think there's always 2 levels of stories. There's the humorous or the whatever it is, and then there's what it means. And so I've always enjoyed hearing good stories, telling good stories. So it was in 1991, if you want to go into this, but I had made a speech for the State United Way, and the following week I was contacted by an agent in Louisville and asked me that if I would like to look into that as a profession or whatever you want to call it, and
Public speakers or something?
And I said, no, I don't think so. And I was afraid that it would take the joy of doing that away, when you do it for money. And so, but then I got to think, well, money's not all that bad. So I tried it, and I really enjoyed it, and so it just kind of went from there.
And I think what you talk about some of your experience in Ohio County and all those things, and I believe like we talked to Judge Mattingly before this show, is that sometimes people don't realize that the humor and thinking about some of the things that we experience is so important in life.
Well, it's almost like Abraham Lincoln said. Sometimes it hurts so much that you want to cry, or something of that nature. But I've always valued where I grew up, and I've always valued tremendously who helped me get where I am, and even though that's a modest achievement, but every one of us, you, everybody, has somebody who helped you get where you are today.
Yes.
And wouldn't it be great if we could look around and say, I helped some way. And
Yeah,
so I want to pay honor to those people. And I want, I was thinking, I hope you don't mind me just going on here, but I was thinking, I tried to say that this morning to the board, that, we pay honor to those people who are in hard circumstances, but do not let those circumstances dictate who they are.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you run into that every day.
Right.
And we think that we have to hit a home run every time. It ain't going to happen. So what we need to work on, I think, as individuals, is taking small victories wherever we can get them, and that sustains us.
And that's what your book, is about, as far as talking some of the tall tales sitting on the porch, and some of the life experiences, and you refer to couple of couples and families in Taffy or in Ohio County,
and they're based on real people.
Yeah, tell us about a couple of stories.
Well, Bum and Maybelline, they've been married. Well, in fact, I told the group, and you won't mind if but Bum and Maybelline, they met each other in the first grade, one-room school, and they weren't attractive to anybody else particularly, but they were to each other, and they just kind of knew it was going to happen, and it did. They get married about 18 or 19, and as far as I know, they never looked at anybody else. Maybelline never wanted to, and Bum didn't dare. so they had 13 kids, and it was they were not affluent at all. And they were not particularly the intellectuals in the county. But as parents, I love this story. I didn't tell you this, but you'll have to appreciate that. Every night before they ate dinner, well, we called it supper. Every night, and they had tables. They had a table with Bum sat at one end, Maybelline the other, and they had benches. And Bum always did the greatest thing in his blessing. And he would start it, and he said, Lord, and it was a way to recognize his kids. And Lord, we thank you for this food, and went through those. And he said, and we thank you for that boy, the third one from the end there. I can't remember his name, Lord, but said, you know who he is. He said, I'm awful proud. You know, that boy made an A in arithmetic down at Taylor School today. And his mom and I are awfully proud of him. And said, you know, this girl over here, this one right here, sitting by the tall one, said, she helped her mama make the prettiest cake today you've ever seen, and then they hung out the prettiest line of clothes I think I've ever seen. Said, you know, my mama are so proud of them. So he got a message to each one of those kids how valuable they were. But lo and behold, if they did something wrong. And he'd say, you know, Lord, I hope that you will not allow any of my kids to take advantage of someone who's not as smart as they are in arithmetic or don't read as good, because those kids don't have the gift maybe of reading, but they got other gifts, and I hope none of my kids would ever laugh at them or do anything. And I had one of the kids tell me one time, said, oh, I'd rather Dad ignore me than to criticize me.
Yeah.
So those values that those kids, and they're based on real people. They're not the same names. But I'm telling you, the quality of those kids is beyond measure. It's beyond measure.
So you've been doing this for a long time, and you've given about 600 plus speeches and everything else. You know, I guess I'm not being a public humorist, so I can't relate to that. But it has to be something, one or two things that, you know, becomes a hit, we call it, you know. So people are, like me, rolling on the floor or something. What are some of the hit, that you may have, you know, you would
Well, you know, I don't know. I do know this. I learned this one time. I was making a speech in Horse Park. And I was introduced this way by a person I had never met before. In one of the albums, one of the tapes I had made, they informed me it had been named the comedy album of the year by a radio station. I had no idea. So I guess in a way that was a hit as much as that. But you know, it's more in self-satisfaction, I think. And I have never, I hope, never made a speech that I didn't try to say something that might affect somebody's thinking.
Right.
You know, everybody goes different places in a speech.
Right.
Everybody, if you say something, everybody puts it in their own frame of reference and they take off.
Right.
And they associate it with what they know and what they've experienced. And so I hope as a speaker, humorist, whatever you want to call it, you are able to elicit responses and thoughts and emotions that you hadn't dealt with for a while.
Now, you know, in the introduction we talked about you also play bluegrass music.
Yeah.
Can you say about
I
that?
played for years in with a group called Canoe Creek, and then Canoe Creek broke up in the middle 2005 or 6, and then we created another group called Highway 41. We were never big, never famous or anything, but we had great fun, and that's an outlet. And what I have done is probably I've played a song or two at some of the talks I've done for your group, but I have written songs that are appropriate. In fact, the book, I wrote a song about, there's a song or two referred to in the book, and I've written some songs about that. And I often take a guitar. I'm not very good, but it gets the message across. So I use that music a lot of times to make a point.
You know, you in your professional life, and I'm sure knowing you in your personal life too, because that's what Sarah talks about it too sometimes. You know, she never knows where you will come from for any kind of story, especially a family gathering.
Yeah.
So you do make everybody laugh, you know. And what? So my question is, what makes you laugh? You know, what? You know, I mean, I'm sure there are things that you know, really.
I don't know. I think maybe I'm dodging your question, but I think what makes me laugh is when joy is there.
I see.
When joy, you know, like at family gatherings.
Right.
And it, you know, it's like I refer to this in the book, that, you know, sometimes in family gatherings, the history is such that you don't need to tell the story. You just use one or two words and everybody remembers it.
Right.
And so it's, I think that's what makes me laugh, and it's, of course, I love a good story. I love a good tale. I just do. My dad, you'll love this. My dad was a storyteller. He loved it too. So, and he died in 1973. And the last story he told me was one I loved. He loved to fish, and but he said his last story. He said, "Yes, Bobby," said the woman across the street had a child at home last week. Said it came early and she wasn't prepared for it, and said they didn't have any equipment there, and delivered the baby at home, and said they didn't even have scales to weigh the baby on, and said they came over here and got the scales I weigh my fish on. Says, "Bobby, don't you know the baby weighed 28 pounds?" So that's the history. I grew up with those kinds of tales.
So again, you know, we are, you know, we want to wish you best of luck with your book, and maybe, you know, we need to bring you back to the board and staff and everything else. So those of you listening to this, I'm talking to Bob Park. He's a local humorist, born in Ohio County, lives in Henderson, has been to you know, many of our events at the GRADD office, but recently he just published a book called Tall Tales and Few White Lies, you know, from the front porch. So if you are interested, you know, please contact Bob Park. Telephone number is...
my phone number is 270-826-4352. Write that down now, 826-4352. And also you could contact me by email at bdpark@twc.com.
bdpark@twc.com.
TWC, Time Warner Corporation.
GRADD office, and we'll get in touch with his granddaughter, which we are proud to have working at GRADD too. So again, Bob, as always, enjoyed that. I'm sure we had more time to, you know, visit some of the stories that you talked about, and some of the, you know, some of the, you know, jokes that you had over the years.
If we got a second, what you do is not too different than what those people did.
We're talking to Bob Parks. Any questions or comments, call me at the GRADD office, 926-4433. Thank you very much.